In this episode of Carlie's Couch, we discuss how our businesses are evolving as we finish out the fourth quarter of the year and what we're looking forward to next year.
Happy Monday or whatever day it is, y'all.
Happy Halloween Eve. I hope you guys have enjoyed the weekend. I guess most people do Halloween stuff if it's in the week, like the weekend before. I don't know, whatever the closest weekend is, maybe.
I don't know if you can see that, but
The little white things. I hate that in dresses.
Boy.
Because it's like, you don't need them unless if you have straps, you don't need that in your dress. But thank you.
But yes, hope y'all had a good Halloween.
No, not yet. They're I guess so.
Kinda.
Yeah, kind of.
Or maybe yes and. So maybe you already did one costume. Maybe you got another one coming up on Tuesday or whatever day.
Which I would like to see the costume. So
please tag us.
Actually, no. Well, I probably should take that out because people already like put up all their shit by now anyway. But I'll keep it moving.
All right. So this week's question from the couch: in an alternate universe, what profession would you choose? And we got some pretty interesting answers.
Yeah, it was a lot of good answers. The first one is what I would have did is archaeology. Somebody wanted to be an archaeologist. We had a couple people say like anthropologist, paleontology. So just interested in being outside and digging and exploring.
When I was little, I used to want to be an archaeologist because of the mummy. Mm-hmm. I thought it was real cool. So shout out to that. This next one is right up my alley. Chef, also specifically a French pastry chef. Y'all my people?
Yeah, we had somebody say they want to be a psychologist, somebody who said they want to be a sports or wildlife photographer, which that sounds pretty cool.
Dancer, fighter, spy, investigator, assassin / hitman.
Yeah, one of my girlfriends said she would be a firefighter. Somebody said esthetician.
Then we have the medical, other medical folks, brain surgeon, pediatrician a couple times. And then someone said in the medical field, but do something where they don't have to come into contact with human fluids.
Which is
good luck.
The medical field.
Good luck.
Yeah, because your body is fluid. So I don't know. Good luck with it. A few people said they would be a lawyer.
We had an MLB player, a sommelier, a barber.
I was surprised a couple people said a sommelier, which is kind of random, for a couple of people to think about like that. A couple of people also said pilots. One of my friends said a geisha, which is interesting.
This next one is interesting. International vibe curator of exquisite dinners, galas, art, music, and oil energy tech tycoon.
So basically an IG fronter. Somebody said a storm chaser, which no. A couple people said Formula One drivers, which no.
We had a children's book illustrator, which I thought was cool. And then someone said no profession, no job.
That's real, unless you're on the streets.
Again.
And then somebody said they would be a painter.
Which you still might be on the streets, or a romance novel writer.
Yeah, so those were interesting. Those were pretty creative. And I think it's so interesting how, like, if you could randomly do another job, a lot of time it's maybe something that maybe you've realized now you have more passion about, or something that as a child you had a lot of passion in. But also I don't think any of these are like things where it's like, oh, you should drop what you're doing to go do this. But for anybody who may have had that thought, then go for it. Why not?
I was about to say, it made me think about something your dad said. He said that a lot of people always tell him, oh man, I wish I could play piano. And he's like, you're not dead.
Right.
So if this is really on your work, take your ass to barber school. You know what I'm saying? Like, go do that thing that you want to do.
Work on that fade.
Yeah, work on your romance novel with your other job. It works out.
Yeah, that's not wrong. Not wrong. But those are pretty cool answers. So thank you for getting involved and participating. So as we end out October, which is the beginning of the fourth quarter of the year already. One of the things lately I've been thinking about, but not just because it's fourth quarter, but, I guess because it's like you can reflect on the things that have happened this year. It's starting to just think about like, all right, what's going to be a little different next year? What are some things that have happened this year that might, be evolving with work, etc. And like, what do I really want to do? Sometimes it's like, you're just thinking about like, this was cool. This was unexpected. Now, do I want that to be a part of my work or life moving forward? So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. And, we'll just talk about our experiences with that this year and kind of just encourage you to have that kind of conversation with yourself as well.
Because I think the fourth quarter always, people are like, grind, do all these things. But I think we should reflect and also see, where life is heading. And again, is that something that I want to do? So we're going to get to that. So, Lexi, how has your business shifted this year so far?
Some of the shifts that I've been seeing this year are more focus on working with individuals as opposed to the bigger organizations. But that was by fault of some of the organizational projects ending. And then the work that we started to bring up was people reaching out to us because they wanted to better understand what was going on with their social. So, like, give them an assessment. Um, and or for people who wanted to formalize their brand and like more high profile individuals. So that was kind of a bit of a change because we'd had so many processes in place, but now it's a little different with working with an individual. And it's not our first one though, but we were able to kind of tighten up even more what that can look like with a high profile individual as far as creating a strategy for them, what that looks like to maintain content for them. Did a lot more traveling this year for work, like with clients and with client events, and had to produce a lot more like live content in those types of situations. So that was one of the biggest shifts that I would say happened this year, and which kind of caused me to start thinking about is that a direction that is that profitable for us, like the way we did it this year, and then B, is that something that would benefit us to do more of that same kind of work, and then C, like how can that what we've been doing, how can that change or evolve to make sense if that was a direction that you want to go in. And I say that because sometimes working with bigger organizations, it can be fun. But if you are doing content marketing, which has been our focus, then your bigger companies, they have their social media departments and things of that nature. But who they're really reaching out to is trying to get the talent, and who they're reaching out to is agencies who are producing, so like to produce spots and content or take the photos, things of that nature. And so it's a little bit of a disconnect, but now it's like, well, if we had a focus on a bucket of like high profile individuals, then that can be how you connect with some of these bigger brands because, hey, we are putting this person in position for a campaign and then helping with them to get that content and get that out from where things need to be posted from the talent side. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about thus far. What about you? How has your business shifted this year?
Okay, so quick reminder about what I do because I do a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
but think all things holistic health and wellness and self care. So services on one side, products on the other. Services, I have corporate clients and then I have personal clients and teach classes. So corporate clients, I'm still doing the same thing, and then classes and clients. The gym I used to teach at shut down this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so not teaching as many classes and had to really sit with myself and be like, do I want to teach classes? What do I want to teach when it comes to wellness? Do I want to have personal training clients? Products business is still going to go the same side. So I'll focus on services. So products still pumping holistic. Y'all don't be ashy out here. It is the fourth quarter. So go ahead and order some whole butters. And I also have some bath salts and other stuff coming. But for services, I've done consulting with companies about how to deal with stress resiliency, how to help their employees like build up leadership and team building skills. I've done it, went in and done trainings on self-care and how they can implement that into the workplace but also into their own lives, and mindfulness and how that relates to productivity. And so those are just some of the things that I've done, but it's always kind of been like a one-off, like, oh, I'll go teach at this place. I taught with the school district for a year and a half, like different things, but it's kind of like come and go. This year I've been approached more about actually helping people on the strategy side of business and on how to grow their businesses and how to develop curriculum, which is something I've been doing with nonprofits, but never in the business scope. Like I haven't tried to sell that to a company or anything yet. And so I'm pretty excited about it because I love the strategy portion of business and thinking about how to help them grow in a way that focuses on their vision and their goals and their impact, because all the companies I work with have impact. But then thinking about that, like, wasn't that completely divests itself, not completely, it almost completely divests itself away from like my holistic health and wellness teaching. And so like at these companies, and so I'm kind of sitting with like, do I want to push one more than the other, seeing how I enjoy projects and what I do actually like to do within the scope of strategy. um, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm sitting with coming into this fourth quarter.
I think you started kind of to answer this, but just so I can make sure I'm clear. So you're saying that this new type of work is biz dev related, but it's not related to like holistic health per se. It's just like help me with my business.
Yes, exactly. So it helped me with my business. So I think it's interesting because I have done the strategy stuff, the biz dev stuff, like around the
Mm-hmm.
wellness. But then the company was like, "Oh, but you also have MBA. You want to help us with this other
Mm-hmm.
strategy
Mm-hmm.
stuff too?"
What type of company?
Um,
You don't have to be super detailed, but
yeah,
like.
no, it's actually so three. Well, one's a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is a like a community center type of business, and then one
Mm-hmm.
is like a shipping packing um place for other businesses. So you come in with your business, I could take holistic to them and just take all my products, and they would
Mm-hmm.
ship out my orders and do that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if there is a way that you could make almost like your niche be that it's a holistic approach to developing your business. If you kind of can marry like what your systems and your work looks like, because you're going to help businesses grow in a way that doesn't necessarily feel like inauthentic or hard, and it's good for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
like maybe I don't know how small or big the businesses are, but maybe it's like, well, part of it is like you can assess their work, assess their team, how much do they love it, how do they operate, and like, okay, well, you guys are morning people, so this is what you do during this time, or like maybe you can help people grow and still like incorporate that, like that angle to it, like obviously incorporate that angle into it, so like people feel like, oh, this isn't forcing me to try to like get into some cookie cutter thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a real approach to it.
I think there's such an opportunity for that. And I'm glad you said that because that is like, I'm trying to marry those sides of my brain
Mhm.
together in that because I've been in the other
Mhm.
one for so long. But I think they can exist. My little tagline I always say is I used to be an engineer in construction. Now I'm a life engineer. But what
Mhm.
does that look like to help people build businesses in that
Mhm.
way?
And it's like that's probably already what you do anyway, because when you have a more holistic approach to things, or think about different areas, not just like, okay, what numbers need to add up for money to come in. That's generally like how you approach things anyway. And similarly, so even with the work that we're doing with people, like they always talk about like, um, I really like working with you all because you treat me like a real person, or you understand or value and let me think about what I actually care about. Like you're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to force people to do a certain thing outside of their box. I had a conversation with a guy who works at a talent agency, and he was talking about how he's like, yeah, one of my clients, um, they hired somebody to like help them get content, but like they start putting up the TikToks that are trendy and stuff, like doing your makeup and telling a story. And he's like, but it's kind of starting to look goofy, like it's not really representative anymore, et cetera, et cetera. And I was telling them like, yeah, that's why we look at trends, but we're not led by trends as much as what makes sense about like where does this person want to go, what do they want, and actually creating content that brings more of those opportunities to you. And so I think it is very easy for a lot of folks to kind of just get caught up in a wave of everything else. And like, I feel like both of us in our work kind of remind people that like they can be them and just find out like what's the keys in them that kind of help them be successful themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that always just makes things feel easier too. Um, with you moving into some of that biz dev stuff, were you trying to do that, or did it just like happen? Um, and like, how do you feel about going that direction?
Yeah. So I wasn't trying this year to do that. I had previously, and I had helped a couple like people or companies, but it just didn't continue after that. And I kind of follow like where the universe is kind of guiding me. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
where the money is, this is where the projects are, where the people are coming from. But it kind of popped up from me doing what I was already doing in the holistic wellness space. And so I think it's cool that they trust me, that they're excited about my expertise. And I was laughing because they were like, "Yo, we tried to like get other people to do what you do, but they don't do it like you. And so
Mm-hmm.
we want you to come in and do these things, and bring that to us." So I'm excited. I think it gives me a chance to stretch my brain in new ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing is, I'm trying to think about what it looks like systems wise and how it fits into the business. But I am excited overall, and I'm excited about the new opportunities and how I can think about things. But then also, like, what does that look like in the whole actual business?
How different is it though? Because you it seems like you kind of work as a consultant in general when you're doing like the health and wellness vibes, and so this is consulting like on the biz dev, if you were to take in more of this business, like what does that mean you have to, what do you think you'll have to do differently or change?
Mm, I would. That's a good question. The difference, I think, is so I am a consultant for sure for holistic health and wellness. So yes, but um, instead of them telling me a problem and I come in like, okay, with the school district, it was like the teachers were burnt out and that was causing test scores to go down and the students weren't being participatory. The
Mhm.
administration wasn't getting along. There was a bunch of things that they told me. I created a plan to help them do that. Now I'm going in and helping create the systems for them to even hire the people that they need for
Mm.
these places. And so it's like I'm more on the back end, I guess, instead of like after the problem. Like they know how they want to grow, they just don't know how to get there. So maybe I'm
Mhm.
coming in a little bit earlier, and helping them build something before they like even get to the level where they would have the problem and then call
Mm.
me in.
Mhm. Okay. That makes sense. Um, and do you feel like it's work that you can still do on your own? Like, how do you feel this may change like you having a team or how you make moves like that?
Yeah, so I this year was really cool. I felt very excited because it's the first year I was like really paying people consistently to come in and
Mhm.
do like some consulting work and stuff with me. Like when I would get certain companies, I would be like, "Oh, I actually think this person is a better fit, and I
Mhm.
want to get my friends paid who are doing great things in the community as well." So I've been hiring people, and I was really excited because I'm like, "Oh, this is an actual business when you're actually like paying folks."
Mhm.
But I think if I were to take more biz dev, more strategy and development things, then I would probably have to hire more people to help me just do all of the things that I need to do.
Mm. Okay,
Like
so
all
it's
the back end work, all the systems, I would probably have to hire
okay.
people to help me do that.
Okay, but it's interesting too because it's like, oh, I might can have a plan or have a way to approach what's going on and what you may need, but also it's kind of cool, like you said, like you can bring in other people to like help with a certain thing. So it's like you're the person, but then you can bring in other resources for them, and that's very important. Similarly, I think for me, I wasn't planning to think this direction, and yet now I'm thinking about straight up management of like artist management, artist partnerships, thinking about friends who are like speakers, our composers, our artists, our actors, our book writers, and all of these different things. And people tend to ask me about that in the past. And I'm like, I'm not about to be working extra hard to like be responsible for like finding you gigs and finding you this and that. And yet, having a conversation with my business manager this past few weeks ago, one thing he's saying is like, well, you're kind of acting like a manager for our client. It's like, well, what you're doing is like, this is somebody who like trusts you. They're calling you and talking to you just about regular things or talking to you about things that's coming up. um they're trusting you. You're putting together the right people in place to help with certain things and bringing in PR. Oh, that's another thing too that I didn't even talk about. So definitely shifting into being able to provide PR, but only because it makes sense with a couple of our clients. It's like, okay, you guys are doing enough that it's like you will really benefit from that. And so bringing in some PR and gonna start to do some initial work with them to see how well we can fit and get things done together. But then even with that, that kind of strengthens us as well. So it almost sounds like I have an opportunity. I'm still not sure if this is completely where I want to go though, but I have an opportunity for our company to be a place that can do artist management, in that we can assess with them, like, what are you trying to do, what is the opportunities you're trying to get more of, assess a strategy and content plan for them, be able to create that content. We have so many different people, photographers and designers and all that, to create the content for them, and then to actually be doing some of that outreach PR and connecting dots, for some of these opportunities for them to actually get. So like that full circle, because everything is online now anyway, like a full circle of like, hey, putting out there what you want people to hit you up for. And if these are already people who have a very high audience, then it's really just one of those things where it's like you just got to talk about what you want and show what you want to do. And then it kind of just helps you propel forward in that space. So really just kind of helping put the pieces together similarly. And I really like that work. Um, I think it's just a matter of like I'll need to do a little bit more relationship building with other folks, because even with this past project, like I've had to reach out to friends in different industries to ask questions and learn more, so I know like how I should assist this client with moving. And yet I also realize that sometimes being outside of the box of certain industries allows me to think differently, which is good too. And so you're not just doing the things the same way that everybody's been doing them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about that being a direction to go in, mostly because there's now opportunity, like with this other guy I've been talking to who's a talent manager, of him saying like, hey, I have some people that it may benefit, like if I could send them your way. So I just got to think about if it makes sense, because working with individuals is always um, a lot lower like retainers, just because it's like you want to be able to maintain it. But then when they have these other things going on as a manager now, it's like, oh well, in the case of my client, we did a reel of them cooking something just at their house, and then Campbell's is like, oh, here's 100,000, come film something for like a social media type commercial. It's funny because now commercials aren't even for TV anymore. Um, or maybe it was like with on Hulu or something, right? But like a commercial thing. And it's like, okay, as a manager now, I would have got my, 15 to 20% of that. And so it's helpful to have this small like retainer to help with content, blah, blah, blah. But now we actually are doing our job. And if we are managing and getting opportunities, then that's a bigger chunk. Then that's how that can come in and it benefits everybody. So that's what I'm thinking about. And I think with that, it just matters about having the right type of clients, because, you can't really manage new people and think like you about to get a whole lot coming in. That's when it's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
hustle. But um, I know I have the networks and the ability to maybe pull in some interesting folks. So that's what I'm thinking about.
And so I guess for this fourth quarter that we're coming
Mhm.
into, like what's your focus to get ready for that?
I have just been studying. So I have been just doing like a lot of research. I've been starting to look up some other successful managers and listen to their interviews. And it's so funny because the other day I was just kind of looking up stuff and reading articles, because one of my hangups is like, oh, I don't know how to be a manager. But then as I'm reading these things, I'm like, oh, this is like how we move anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
then I stopped. I was like, let me stop listening to stuff and stop reading stuff. And then I literally just started researching like some opportunities specifically for a client that I wanted to figure out, and just like started doing it. Because right now, what I'm doing is just saying like, well, I'll think like a manager, because my clients already reached out and been like, well, let's talk about your goals. What are you trying to do? I don't, as things get bigger and bigger, I don't want you to feel left out or like you're not getting what you need out of it. And so now I'm prepared to the next time we have that conversation to be like, well, actually, this is what I want to do, and to see what that looks like to formalize. So right now I'm thinking in that way, and I am acting like a manager, and we'll see what happens with that and how I can transition it into really being the thing.
That's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, because I have a few people that I know are looking for opportunities, and I'm like, all right, I could just think like a manager with them. Like not even really trying to be it yet, but like just see what that feels like and looks like. Yeah, and maybe that will be a more interesting way to connect with a lot of these. Like I said, like if they got this Campbell's opportunity, and then it's like, okay, that's how you work with these bigger companies, through the talent side, instead of trying to be like, Campbell's, let me do a campaign for you. So I think that could be interesting. And it was good to have conversation with other people to let me know, like, I mean, that's what you're already doing. It's just, just look into it and just think about it. And so now that's just where I'm at. It's just kind of letting it marinate.
Mhm. Okay. I'm excited to continue to hear this journey evolve. Congrats on all of that. Um, right now, I'm also learning, but I think the first step for me is to figure out like what is in my scope of things that I want to do, because there's a
Hmm.
few different things that they ask me for, and so I need to sit with what I actually want to do, and what is actually in my wheelhouse, and if not, like I probably know people to like point them to for those things, but I want to work in my strengths and in things that make me excited and things that I enjoy doing. So one, figuring out like what fits. So I'm
Hmm.
probably going to spend the rest of the year playing with that and seeing how that goes. And then two, thinking about what it would look like to take on more work of this and what my team would need to look like to be able to do this in the way that I want to.
Hmm. So you would need to define like, what is this service?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens over time too, because like ours has changed so much from how we would do assessment at the beginning, and then we named it our own thing, like called it a cat map, and now it's like, okay, it's a real thing. But it takes a lot of experience sometimes of like just doing it and then realizing like, all right, what's the parts that make sense, what's the parts people actually ask for, what do I actually want to do, who's doing it. So yeah, that sounds like it makes sense to just keep going down that path of just defining it, and being able to like write a little thing that says, hey, the Carlie experience is this. Like, we come in, we see what's going on, we see how you feel, we note the things that make you feel blah, and then we choose those as our priority of how to make your business better or whatever. Like, how can you make it like a blurb that really fits you, and then from there you could just keep like getting more and more detailed as you're just doing it, because then you have to kind of do it to make it make sense even more.
Exactly. You have to start walking in it and
Yeah.
experiencing it before it
Yeah.
can readjust and before you learn. So all of that to say, I'm gonna do this project and also marinate on all of those things for the rest of the year and see how they go.
Yeah, so for all of you listening, whether you work somewhere, work for yourself, or even have your own projects, whatever it may be, think about how this year went for you. What opportunities did you get? What things happened that surprised you? What things did you ask for? And then you're like, I don't really like this. But really think about that and think about how you can kind of prep for the direction you would want to go into next, and what that looks like. And again, sometimes it's just kind of thinking about it, and jogging your thoughts and writing or doing some research. But think about how you want to pop out for 2024 and start putting those things into place.
Yeah, hit us at Carly's Couch to let us know. Your thoughts about the episode, your thoughts about where you are and where you want to be. And then we actually have a shout out this week. So, where I'm shouting out is the Sensuality by Karma Reigns experience. I had a holistic pop up at her dance class a couple of weeks ago, and it was so beautiful. It was so much fun. First of all, like the caveat, I love dancing. So, that was like a no-brainer for me. But what I will say is I've never been in a space where someone so intentionally created a brave space, a safe space, an open space, such a fun space for all types of bodies, all types of races, all like older women, younger women. There was everybody you can imagine on the spectrum, and everybody had a really good time. And I love that being so thoughtful. She even had different models besides her, like who knew the choreography,
Mm-hmm.
who were like different sizes to show you what it looks like on different bodies and different abilities. Like some people had to do
Mm-hmm.
modifications. And I just appreciate that because I feel like a lot of times they're not accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it
so
shows that like everybody can be sensual. It really is like a attitude thing.
it is. And I felt so good. So shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Karma
Cool.
Reigns. Y'all check her out at Sensuality by Karma, Karma, on Instagram. Go to her classes, support all the stuff she's doing because it's amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.